Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Fakhr Lodi and this is our 32nd lecture of Formal Methods for Software Engineering. पिछले लेक्चर में हमने OBJ फैमिली ऑफ स्पेसिफिकेशन लैंग्वेजेस पे गुफ्तगू करनी शुरू की थी. Remember, OBJ is a family of languages that includes OBJ 0, 1, 2, 3, Caffe OBJ, OBJB, and so on and so forth. So it is not just one language, but they possess the characteristics which are very, very similar to one another. They are all based upon the basic OBJ language, although there are different dialects and variations in those languages. And currently, the language that is very popular is Caffe OBJ, but at the same time, we have OBJ 3, which is also in widespread use. As mentioned last time, the OBJ family of specification languages, they are based upon order sorted algebra, OSA, which lets us work with subtypes and also lets us work with partial functions and allows us to have exception handling and so on and so forth. At the same time, we have equational logic in there also. So the equations or the axioms are written using equational logic. So we have two types of semantics here: declarative semantics, denotational semantics, and operational semantics. Equations are written declaratively and they are executed using operational semantics, and hence we try to verify, try to find out whether a certain objective is achieved or not. So we saw last time how we can use OSA, order sorted algebra, to specify subsorts. Instead of defining this thing again and again for similar things, we kind of reuse. And there is this concept of inheritance there also. Today we shall discuss this thing and we shall see how we can use this thing, this order sorted algebra, to handle exceptional conditions and partial functions. So here is an example. I'll show you, I will write a sort there and then we'll show you an example and show you where is this partial order and how this partial order is handled using the order sorted algebra. So we have, let us assume we have this mod sorts here. Let us assume we have S4 which is less than S2 and S3, which is less than S1. So this less than symbol, remember, this is the symbol of subtype. It is a subset. So we have defined this thing. Then we say we have this sort S5, which is less than S1. And then we have other sorts S6 and T. So these are the sorts used in this module. And there is an order defined here. The order, if you look at this thing, we are saying if we have this S2 here, this is S2, then this S4 is a subset of S2, which is also a subset of S3. So there is an overlapping area between S2 and S3, and both S2 and S3, they are subsets of S1, and we have this S5 also, which is a subset of S1, and we have this S6 and T. These are independent of the rest. So this is the kind of system that we have. We have these 7 sorts: S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, and T, and this is what their relationship is. If I draw a hierarchy there, I can say, you can see something like here, this S4. This S4 is a subset of S2 and S3, which are less than S1, and we have S5 here, which is also less than S1, and then we have S6 and T, which are not part of this hierarchy. So we have this structure, and we have defined this sorts. So first of all, we have defined these sorts, and there is a certain order among these sorts, and this is very common. It happens all the times. So we are saying, and in this particular case, if you look at it, S4 is less than S2 as well as S3. So it is kind of multiple inheritance in this particular case. Although when we look at the subset, we may not see it there, but the notion of multiple inheritance may also be used here, may also be seen here. What happens in this particular case now? Since S4 is a subset of S2, that means all the operations that are defined on S2 are also defined on S4. Similarly, all the operations that are defined on S3, they are also defined on S4. All the operations that are defined on S1, they are also defined on S5, S2, S3, and S4. S6 and T, they are independent. But the rest, they have a certain relationship. How does that relationship work? Let us look at this example. Let us complete this example and then see what happens. This is a partial function, and if it is a partial function in that particular case, where are the exceptional cases? Let us look at that example. So let me complete this by completing the sort. We say I have this operation, let's call it F1, which from S1 to or let us simply say it gives us S1. Then we have this operation F2, which gives us an element of this type. We have F3, which gives us S3. F4 gives us S4, and I have an operation G which takes S2 and gives me a T. So these are the operations defined on this module, in this module here. The most interesting of these operations, when I say, for example, this F1, since S1 is a superset of S2, S3, S4, and S5, so F1 is available on S2, S3, S4, and S5, all 5 of these, and so on and so forth. But it is not available on S6. Here, let us look at this particular operation, G. If I say G of F2, now this F2 of S2, this F2 gives me, in this particular case, this F2 gives me S2, and G is defined for S2, and I get T here, so this is fine. If I say G of F4, now this is an interesting case. G of F4 gives me S4, and G is defined on S2. But since S4 is a subset of S2, that means this G is also defined on this S4. So this is also fine. If I say G of F1, G of F1 S1, since S1 is a superset of S2, hence this is not defined, and I have an error condition here. Similarly, I would have an error condition for the rest of the cases. Now you see, we have a partial function here. In the case of that lattice, we saw the hierarchy there. This G is not defined for all types, all sorts. It's not defined on S1, it is not defined on S3, it is not defined on S5, it is not defined on T, it is not defined on S6. It is only defined for S2, but since S4 is a subset of S2, by default it is defined for S4 also. A subset means that all values of S4, they are also members of S2. Hence, since it is defined for all members of S2, hence it is defined for S4 as well. This is what it is, very simple. This is a partial function, it's not complete. So now the question is, if we have this kind of specification, how to deal with this kind of specification? OBJ specification languages, they let us deal with the exceptional cases. They also let us deal with incomplete specification, the partial specifications. And this is what we shall see. So let me take you to a slide, and on the slide we shall see the specification of the partial functions, and then we see how to handle those partial functions and how to handle the exceptional cases. So what happens is that whenever there is an exception, we retract and we try to find what can be done. So here is this example of a stack. Let us first look at the example. We have this obj stack of net is sorts stack ne stack. So we have two sorts, stack and ne stack, that is not empty stack. The question in the case of a stack is, what happens when we try to pop or take the top element of an empty stack? And this is what we are going to handle in this particular case. That is an exceptional case. So what we have done is we have created a not empty stack and we have a stack. So we have subsort. Not empty stack is a kind of a stack, is a subset of a stack. Protecting natural, that is we are importing natural. Op empty will give you a stack. Op push natural stack gives you an ne stack. Op top takes an ne stack and gives you a natural. Op pop takes an ne stack and gives a stack. Variable x, which is a natural. Variable s, which is a stack. And we have two equations. Eq top push xs is equal to x, and eq pop push xs is equal to s. Now see what we have done here in this particular case. Using this order sorted algebra, we have defined two sorts which are ordered. We have a stack and we have a non-empty stack. A non-empty stack, as the name suggests, will be something which is also a stack, but there is at least one element available in the stack. That means when we have this pop and top operations, what we have done is we have said that this pop and top operations, they are only applicable onto a non-empty stack. So the input to the pop and the top operations is a non-empty stack. When we push, the result is a non-empty stack. So we take a stack, and when we push one element, a stack can be empty or non-empty. So by pushing, we create a non-empty stack. If it was non-empty, it will, we will add one element. If it is empty initially, we will create a non-empty stack. The stack creation operation, that is the empty in this particular case, gives us a stack. Now, here what we have done is we have handled the exceptional condition. And what was the exceptional condition? Exceptional condition was that we could not take the top element if the stack was initially empty, or if stack was empty. So we cannot look at the top element, we cannot pop an element from an empty stack. So we say for these two operations, the parameter must be a non-empty stack. It is not defined on other kinds of stacks. Very simple. So if it is defined on those, if it requires that it has to be a non-empty stack, exception condition has been taken care of. This has been done with the help of OSA. We have defined the hierarchy and we have said all the operations are applicable, except that in certain cases we are going to have only this. That is, when we create a stack, it will be a stack. When we push, it will be non-empty. When we pop and when we take the top, we have to have a non-empty stack as the input parameter. And that's about it. There are other ways of handling the same kind of situation. Let us look at some of more examples of these things. When we try to evaluate, now this is where the reduce and retract works. When we try to evaluate, we say reduce top, push 1 comma empty, it yields the natural number 1. While reduce pop push 1 comma empty yields empty, and reduce top empty yields result natural top or stack ne stack empty. We cannot do that. It basically tells us that we cannot take an empty stack. This is an empty stack. We have to have a non-empty stack. And with this empty, it is retracted to the sort ne stack, and hence we get an error. We handle that condition, and we say reduce top pop empty. Once again, we say result is net top or stack, which requires a non-empty stack, pop or stack, which requires a non-empty stack, and in this particular case we have empty, and once again this is what the kind of error that we get. So you see, when we try to reduce and some condition is violated, we get the message accordingly that, okay, in this particular case it is not defined. You cannot do that. But in this particular case, there was an exception. And this is what the exception was. We can handle this kind of situation with the help of error messages also. So that is the alternative approach to handling. When we have an exception, we can raise that exception and then we handle that exception. But we can also have an error message and handle it in a more natural fashion. How do we do that? Let us look at this example. So once again, we have the stack. Obj stack of net is sort stack, stack question mark, and net question mark. So we have these three sorts: stack, stack question mark, and net question mark. Subsort stack is a subset of stack question mark. Then we have protecting net. Subsort net is a subset of net question mark. Then we have the operations. Op empty gives us a stack. Op push net stack gives us a stack. Op push net stack question mark gives us a stack question mark. Op top gives us a natural number, takes a stack and gives us a natural number question mark. Op pop takes a stack and gives us a stack question mark. Op topless gives us a natural question mark. Op underflow gives us a stack question mark. Then we have the two variables. Variable x is net and variable s is stack. And then we have the set of equations. EQ top push xs is equal to x. EQ pop push xs is equal to s. EQ top empty is equal to topless, and that is the operation that gives us a net question mark. And EQ pop empty is equal to underflow, and underflow gives us a stack question mark. Now what we have done is we have introduced two sorts. Previously we introduced a sort not empty stack. Here we have introduced two sorts, a stack question mark and a natural question mark. Both these question marks, I mean, these are just names that we have. Both these question marks that we had, idea really is, what we are saying is whether we are getting a legal stack back, whether we are getting a legal natural number back or not. So this natural number, proper natural number or not. So what we have done is, this stack question mark is a superset of stack, and natural number question mark is a superset of natural number. It has all the natural numbers plus one maybe very special value that indicates an error condition. The stack question mark, once again, is all the stacks, proper stacks, plus one very special value, which is an error condition, which signifies an error condition. So we also have two operations. If we try to take the top of an empty stack, then we have this message that it is topless. It has, we cannot really do that. And similarly, if we try to pop an empty stack, we get an underflow. An underflow means that we cannot pop from an empty stack, and the equations are reflected there. So here are some examples reduction for this code. We have reduce top push 1 comma empty. What we should get is, we should get 1. Reduce pop push 1 comma empty, we should get empty. Reduce top empty should be topless. Reduce pop empty should be underflow. Reduce top pop empty should be top or stack question mark stack underflow. The rest of the conditions are okay. We have defined those conditions, but the last one is a very interesting special case. In this particular case, what happens is, we are trying to pop an empty stack, and then we are going to take the top of what we got after popping the empty stack. So when we pop an empty stack, it is an underflow, and once it is an underflow, for underflow we have not defined top, hence it is an error condition. So you see, even if when we have introduced the error conditions, even then exceptions may arise, and we need to have some mechanism of handling those exceptions, and OBJ lets us do that. When I say OBJ, I mean different dialects of OBJ. I'm not talking about one particular OBJ. Mostly I'm talking about OBJ3 and Caffe OBJ. So the most of the examples, they have come from Caffe OBJ and OBJ3, but I will be generically calling them OBJ. Anyway, so that is how we handle exceptions and error conditions in OBJ specification language. In OBJ, we can also use propositional calculus, and it makes crucial use of associative and commutative rewriting. Code for the object proc that we are going to see evolved from OBJ1. So here is the code. OBJ proc is sort proc, extending truth, protecting QID, subsorts ID, bool is subset of prop. Then we have the set of constructors, op, and takes two propositions and gives us a proposition. And we are also saying that it is associative, it is commutative. We have idea true, and the precedence is 2. OP exclusive OR, XOR, once again takes two propositions and gives us a proposition back, and it is associative, commutative, IDR, false, and the precedence is 3. So we are also specifying the precedence. We are saying whether it is associative or commutative. We are also specifying the precedence here. Then we have three variables, P, Q, and R, which are of type proposition. We have EQP and false is equal to false. EQP exclusive or P is equal to false. EQP and Q exclusive or R is equal to P and Q exclusive or P and R. So far what we have done is we are defining this module propositions, and in that we have defined two basic operations, and exclusive OR. The rest of the operations, they will be defined in terms of and exclusive OR, as we shall see later, and we have seen similar examples earlier on in our previous algebraic specifications. So there is nothing really new. But the new thing here is when we are defining things, we can also specify certain properties of these operations. In this case, we were saying that these were associative, these were commutative, and we were also defining the precedence order. So it is, the interesting part is we can define the precedence order. And as we shall see a little later, when we define the NOT operator, we will see it has a higher precedence than the and exclusive OR operations, although NOT will be defined in terms of and exclusive OR. So we have the constructor functions, and then we are going to have the auxiliary functions that will be defined in terms of the constructor functions, the same mechanisms that we used earlier on. So let us look at that. So we have the derived operators. Operator OR, two propositions, gives us a proposition, and it is associative, and the precedence is 7. So it has less precedence than and exclusive OR. Operation NOT takes a proposition and gives a proposition, and it has a precedence 1. Operation implies takes two propositions and gives us a proposition, and the precedence is 9. If and only if it is associative and the precedence is 11. Note, implies is not associative. Now we write the equations. Equation P or Q is equal to P and Q exclusive or P exclusive or Q. I'm not going to talk about this thing, how it actually is equal to P or Q. You can easily see that. But the important thing to note here is it is defined in terms of and exclusive OR, and there is no ambiguity because the precedence order has already been given. And if we wanted to change the order, we could use parentheses. So there is no ambiguity here. Then we have equation not P is equal to P exclusive or true. Equation P implies Q is equal to P and Q exclusive or P exclusive or true. And finally, equation P if and only if Q is equal to P exclusive or Q exclusive or true. Nothing really special about these. The only thing that you need to remember is that in OBJ specifications, when we write the operations, with the operations we can specify whether these operations are commutative, associative, other properties, and at the same time we can specify the precedence of these operations, and hence, when we write a formula, those precedence rules will apply. So this is a very powerful, useful concept here. Now let us look at the reduction of these and examples when these operations are applied and see what happens there. Now we apply some reductions in the context of this object. So we say reduce quote A implies quote B if and only if B implies not A. So it is reduced to true. Reduce not A or B if and only if not A and not B. This is supposed to be true, should be true. Reduce C or C and D if and only if C, and this should be true. Note one thing here, that these are our simple logical formulations. So there is nothing special about it, but these were not expressed in our equations explicitly. So when we reduce, when we apply those equations and we use term rewriting, we get this true values. We reduce A if and only if not B. It should be A exclusive or B. Now this is interesting. In this particular case, we are not getting true or false. We are getting another formulation, and that formulation is our basic formulation reduced to XOR and AND. In this particular case, simply XOR. So in this particular case, see, the result depends upon the values of A and B. So we cannot say whether this thing is true or false, but we reduce it to our original formulation A XOR B. Similarly, reduce A and B XOR C XOR B and A. It should be reduced to C. Reduce A if and only if A, if and only if A, if and only if A should be true. Reduce A implies B and C if and only if A implies B and A implies C should be true. So see how things work here. Now it is important to note that when we get something true or false, that is what a tautology is. So the first three and the last couple of equations that we had, those were tautologies. They were always true. If it turns out to be false, it will be a contradiction. Otherwise, it depends upon the value of those variables, and we cannot determine until we know the value of that variable. This example illustrates a striking advantage of using logical language. Every computation is a proof, and interesting theorems can be proved by applying the right programs to the right data. Even if the given equations do not define a decision procedure for a given theory, so long as they are all correct with respect to this theory, then the result of the reduction will be correct, and for this purpose, we have shown the proof. For example, even if we did not know that proxy was canonical, we could still be certain that any term that reduces to true is a tautology. So this is an extremely useful thing that we have just talked about. Even if we don't know if that was a canonical form, and if it turns out to be true, we know that this is a tautology. So for theorem proving, we can use this very easily and very effectively. So this is basically a theorem prover. So we have got a theorem prover by default here. So this is an extremely useful thing, and this is what this OBJ languages, specification languages, they give us. Sometimes we have difficulties in domains, requirement, and designs, and high-level specifications of domains, requirement, design are inherently partial and evolutional. Usually there is no established formal mathematical model for the problem. It is not easy to be convinced that some important property holds for domains, requirements, and designs. So development of domain theories can be useful here. So what we are saying here is that we build systems in an evolutionary manner. We have small systems, we add meat to it, and we get more complex systems. So the complete detail is not present, especially in the initial phases. So we need to work with those systems which are partially defined. And this is what we are going to see. Caffe OBJ also gives us this mechanism, what is known as proof score. in this particular case, what happens is some manual interaction is also used. So there is this automatic thing, and then we have the manual interaction, and with the help of both these, we get our desired objectives. So let us see what this proof score is. A proof score approach. In that approach, domain requirement design engineers are expected to construct proof scores together with formal specifications. Proof scores are instructions such that when executed or played and everything evaluates as expected, then the desired property is convinced to be held. Proof by construction and development. This is proof by reduction, computation, and rewriting. So what we are saying here, we are saying that we are trying to prove something. It is quite possible that it is incomplete, and hence we cannot prove. But if we can prove, that means that thing is supposed to be true, that thing is supposed to be correct. So जितना आप prove कर सकते हैं उतना इसको आप prove कर लें, and that is what this proof score approach is all about. So what we do is, by understanding a problem to be modeled, specified, determine several sorts of objects, entities, data type, agents, states, and operations over them for describing the problem. Define the meaning functions of the operations by declaring equations over the expressions composed of the operations. Write proof scores for properties to be verified. So here is an example. We have natural numbers. The signature is 0, 0 plus 1, 0 plus 1 plus 1, and so on and so forth. So we have 0, and then this successor of 0, then this is successor of 0, and so on and so forth. Objects, natural. Operations, 0, which returns 0 without arguments, and S, which given a natural number n returns the next natural number S n of n. So we have this sort, natural, operations, op 0 gives us natural, op S takes a natural and gives us a natural number. Now we have the expressions and terms which compose the operations. So we have this mod exclamation mark, basic natural. So we have this natural op 0, natural op S. This is the old specification that we have just written. Now we have 1, 0 is a natural number. 2, if n is a natural number, then Sn is a natural number. Number 3, an object which is to be a natural number by 1 and 2 is only a natural number. So this is the definition of natural numbers. So we have natural is equal to 0, successor of 0, successor of successor of 0, and so on and so forth. So we can write natural is equal to 0, S0, SS0, SSS0, and so on and so forth. So what we do is we describe a problem in expressions and terms. So the mathematical induction over natural numbers. So the goal is prove that for any natural number n, which is a member of 0, successor of 0, successor of successor of 0, and so on and so forth, P of n is true. Induction scheme is P of 0, and for all n belonging to n, P of n gives us P of S of n, and we want to find out for all n natural number P of n. So this is what the inductive step is. And the concrete procedure for that is, we say induction with respect to n, we say prove P0 is true, assume that Pn holds, and prove that Psn is true. So what we are doing here is nothing really special here. So let us look at the specification. We have the signature and expression terms. We have sort, natural, operation op 0, natural, op S, natural gives us a natural number, op plus takes two natural numbers and gives us a natural number. So we have this natural which is equal to 0 union S of n, where such that n is a natural number, union n1 plus n2, where n1 is a natural number and n2 is a natural number. So natural number with addition, we can see here natural is equal to 0, s of 0, ss 0, ss s0, and so on and so forth. 0 plus 0, comma 0 plus s of 0, comma 0 plus s s0, and so on and so forth. So this reduces to 0 plus 0 plus 0, and so on and so forth, and ultimately we will be able to prove that this actually works. Now we have the equations in this. Now we write the equations. We have op 0 natural, op s natural to natural, op plus natural, and the equations are n natural plus 0 is equal to n, and equation n natural plus s of m, which is a natural, is equal to s of n plus m. So this is the equation that we have, and we will be using this equation to prove the natural number with addition, that natural number have the property of addition. And we have the inference computation with the equation. We have s0 plus ss0 is equal to ss0 plus s0 is equal to ss0 plus 0 is equal to ss0. So we will get the answer 3 in this particular case. So the proof score for the proof of associativity of addition. So opening module natural plus and equal. Equal is built in meta module. For making a predicate equal available, open natural plus plus equal, declaring constants as arbitrary values. OPS I, J, K is natural. Prove associativity I plus J plus K is equal to I plus J plus K by induction on K. Base case proof for 0, red I plus J plus 0 is equal to I plus J plus 0. Induction hypothesis is EQ I plus J plus K is equal to I plus J plus K. Proof of induction step for SK, reduce I plus J plus SK is equal to I plus J plus SK. QED, end of proof for associativity of plus and close. So here we saw this score proof. This is a manual come automated kind of thing. Things that we can prove are proven automatically. We also give manual interaction, and we say open and close. When we say open, it starts this proof score. Anyway, this is a detailed discussion, and unfortunately we do not have time to go into the detail of what is going to happen here. But if you look at the literature, you will be able to follow the argument what happens here. But the point really is that, for partial functions or partial development, where we do not have the complete details, we may need to work with partial information, and hence proofs can be difficult to achieve. So here we use this proof scores. This OBJ and the other languages in the set, they are very useful and very important languages, and they played a very significant role in the development of programming languages and the overall software engineering paradigm. Although they are not directly used a lot, but they influence the design of object-oriented paradigm to a great degree. So hence, the study of these languages is a lot of importance. And also, these languages, since they can be executed, hence they can be used to build prototypes also. So you write specifications, you execute those specifications, and you build those prototypes there. With that, I conclude my discussion on algebraic specifications. We shall now discuss a new mechanism of specifying systems. Till that time, Khuda Hafiz or Assalamu Alaikum.